An insomniac cabbie, disgusted by New York City, embraces his violent tendencies. Listen as we chat about lucrative nostalgia, the coin flip between being a monster or a hero, and ChatGPT not recognizing Martin Scorsese. You talking to me? You talking to me? Yeah, I'm talking to you as we see if Taxi Driver stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with the glut. Alan says as a father, blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 499 of the Test of Time podcast. I'm James Brief, and joining me as always is my buddy pal, co-host, and the director of this podcast, Alan Noah. How you doing, Al?
Hi, that's me. I am doing very well, and I know that you're excited because we're going to do our yearly box office predictions for 2026. We're going to see how we did last year, and I know how much you love this, James.
I do. I for some reason, have always been fascinated by box office numbers. Let's get right into it. As of the time we're recording this podcast, the numbers are still kind of up in the air about what the final box office numbers are because, of course, Avatar is one of those movies that has so many legs.
And tails.
And tails. And it's probably going to maybe making money well into the year. Probably Wicked as well, because it's something that people will probably see in groups and birthdays, and they'll probably be seeing for a while. So the exact box office numbers remain to be seen. But why don't you review our top three, Al?
So my predictions for 2025 were Superman was going to be number one, Fantastic Four First Steps was going to be number two, and Wicked for Good was going to be number three. Your top three were Avatar, Fire and Ash, Superman, and Wicked for Good.
Right. So I think we both predicted well that Wicked was going to be a huge hit, just like the first one.
Yeah.
Maybe is not quite number three. Superman did, very well, even if it didn't excel the way, to number one and number two. Avatar 3 worldwide, it's probably going to make either number one or number two by the end of its run. There is this Chinese movie that really wasn't released internationally, but it made about $2.2 billion in China alone. So
yeah,
that came out of nowhere, from my point of view. But I think we did very well this year, with the exception of the surprise of Fantastic Four. It did well. I mean, it made about $272 million, kind of broke the top 10. It didn't lose money, and it wasn't the kind of flop that the Marvels or Thunderbolts disappointments were.
And the top three for 2025, as it stands now, were a Minecraft movie, Lilo and Stitch, and Superman. Neither of us predicted Minecraft or Lilo and Stitch were going to do as well as they did.
Right. For context, Wicked and Avatar are both about within $10 million of those number two and number three films. So they're certainly going to pass those. But we were both correct in flops that we predicted,
right,
both big and smaller scale. I correctly predicted that Snow White would not be, the hit that, the other live action Disney films were. And you correctly predicted that I Know What You Did Last Summer would not match the success of the first film.
Yeah.
You and I were both wrong about, we thought surprise hits were going to be, I thought it was going to be The Running Man, and you thought Elio. I had mentioned that I thought Michael was going to be a surprise hit, but it wound up being delayed until 2026.
Right. All right, so let's make our 2026 predictions. My number three is Avengers Doomsday. I know that there are people who are a little sick and tired of the MCU, but people who have that Marvel fatigue haven't seen a new Avengers movie since Endgame. And I think people are going to be really excited to see another Avengers movie. They're going to be excited to see Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. I think that one's going to do very, very well.
I thought you were going to say Avengers was going to be number one. I predicted Avengers was going to be number three.
Okay. What's your number two?
My number two is Super Mario Galaxy. I think Illumination did a fantastic job with the first Super Mario. Mario is an enormous IP. People love that film. They love Mario.
I think that movie is going to do very, very well. Definitely top 10, maybe even top 5. I was thinking of that as maybe a 4 or 5. My number 2 pick is The Odyssey. Christopher Nolan knows how to do spectacle, and the cast for that movie is insane. The trailers look amazing. Also, in terms of box office, I think a lot of people, myself very much included, are going to see it in IMAX. He filmed the entire movie with IMAX cameras. That's going to inflate the box office numbers. I think that movie is going to do very, very, very well.
I wound up putting that as my number 4. I think the Avengers are also going to pull in a lot of IMAX, and they're going to get that the extra money too. What is your number 1 of the year? Do we have the same number 1? Do you want to say them at the same time?
Sure, let's go for it.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Spider-Man: Brand New Day. You think Moana's going to be the number 1 movie of the year?
I don't think you have any idea of how obsessed the younger generation is with this movie. And because Moana is so beloved, I think this movie is going to do unbelievable.
I really don't think Moana is going to do that great. If you look at the Disney live action remakes that have done well, there's not a super clear pattern, and there are outliers in any kind of rule you try to make. But I do think that the timing for the nostalgia has to be right. And Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast did really well because people who watched the movie as a kid were now bringing their kids to see the live action. Lilo and Stitch, kind of the same thing, or maybe it was people who love the animated movie were now old enough to appreciate another version of it, whether they had kids or not. But Moana, the animated Moana, came out in 2016. It's 10 years ago. The kids who love that movie when it came out 10 years ago, they're too old for it. And they don't have kids to bring to the new one. Also, the trailer was really, really unimpressive to me. And that was kind of the discourse online because it's all CGI. Some of the characters that look really fun as 3D animation, they look weird as live action CGI animation. I don't see it tapping that lucrative nostalgia vein.
We'll see. I could be wrong. I just know that people are just crazy about it. But I'm wondering what you think your flop of the year is going to be.
I'm going to give you one, and if it violates the rules, you tell me. Honestly, we make up the rules for this game as we go along.
You could put 2 if you want.
Well, here's my first pick. Narnia, The Magician's Nephew. Here's the reason why that could be disqualified. That is a Netflix movie that is going to have a limited release. So if you feel like that shouldn't count, that's fair, and I'll pick something else.
No, I think it would be fair to find out if it does well on Netflix. I would say, sure, but why don't you put it back up?
Okay, Masters of the Universe. Again, kind of talking about that lucrative nostalgia vein. People our age will care about a He-Man movie. I don't see us bringing in a ton of money, and I don't see anyone younger or older really giving a shit.
I actually had that exact one on mine.
Okay.
And it pains me. It pains me as a child that was my IP. I was not a Transformers or a G.I. Joe guy as a kid. I was a He-Man guy. It's not going to be an enormous hit unless the movie just happens to be fantastic.
Right.
Since you were picking between 2, I think The Social Network 2 is not going to do very well. I don't think people are that interested in Mark Zuckerberg, Billionaire, the original Jesse Eisenberg, David Fincher film. That's more of a sexy story of the partners and the Winklevoss twins and them at Harvard. And, there could be something interesting here. It's directed by Aaron Sorkin, who is one of the greatest screenwriters of all time. But I don't think it's going to do that well.
I see that. It's not called The Social Network 2. It's called The Social Reckoning. And it's about internal documents and ethics complaints and misinformation. And I think all of that stuff is interesting and important, but do I need to see a 2-hour dramatized version of it? Not really, man. To me, that screams like a movie that I would watch on streaming, but not pay money to go see it in the theater. Okay, well, here's my prediction for a surprise hit that's going to do really well. Project Hail Mary. I'm kind of mainly saying this because Courtney loved the book. I didn't read it. And I also kind of felt like I didn't need to read it because she was giving me play-by-play recaps of what she read. So I didn't feel the need to pick it up and read it myself. But it's, I guess technically it's IP because it's based on a book, but it's also not a pre-existing movie, so it's not a sequel. You can go in cold. I feel like those kinds of movies have been doing well, these sort of more original ideas. And from everything I heard about the book, it sounded really cool. So I think that one's going to do well.
Project Hail Mary is the book I've been reading. It's fantastic. I think 100% of the marketing is going to be from the creator of The Martian. And The Martian is exactly the kind of film that comes out of nowhere and does fantastic because it's Andy Weir.
Yeah.
He's a great author who does like what Michael Crichton used to do. It's science, but it doesn't talk down to you. It's not like you need a PhD to understand it either. So I agree with you about that. For fairness, I'm going to carry on last year's Michael, which I had actually said worldwide is going to do very well. I think Michael's going to do fantastic. He's one of the biggest stars who ever existed. And I think the movie is pretty much steered away from controversy since it's made by the Jackson Estate.
Well, we'll see how we do next year in January of 2027. But let's talk about Taxi Driver. So I wanted to do this movie on the podcast because I saw it was celebrating its 50th anniversary. Technically, we're a little early. It came out in February of 76, but we were going to do a football movie for Super Bowl and something for Valentine's Day. So we're doing this early. But Taxi Driver, for anyone who hasn't seen it, is about Travis Bickle, a lonely Vietnam War veteran who works nights as a New York City cabbie. Travis has painful headaches, he can't sleep, and he's repulsed by the so-called scum of the city. He then becomes infatuated with Betsy, who works for the presidential campaign of Senator Palantine. When Travis takes Betsy to a porn theater, she ends the relationship. Travis then buys several guns and considers assassinating Palantine. But he also then meets Iris, a 12-year-old sex worker who he wants to save. After failing to kill Palantine, Travis shoots Iris's pimp, a bouncer, and a client. He is injured in the attack, but he survives and is considered a hero by the media. So I know that when this movie came out, it was beloved by critics. It was nominated for a ton of Academy Awards. But how did it do at the box office?
It came out on February 8th, 1976. It had a budget of $1.9 million. The box office growth domestically is $28.6 million. It did fantastic. It was nominated for a ton of awards. It won many, no Academy Awards because it was dominated by a couple other huge 1976 films.
It lost to Rocky mostly, right?
Rocky, but also Network
Right.
beat it out on all of its awards. But people are certainly talking about Rocky, but I think Rocky has evolved more into an awesome franchise as opposed to Network is still talked about. I've never seen it, but it's definitely in the zeitgeist.
The 50th anniversary of Network is later in the year. That's in November. I definitely want to do that movie then. But because this is episode 499 and because I have railed against voiceover maybe close to 499 times on this podcast, I do just want to say that when I complain about voiceover, it's because it is, in my opinion, unnecessary. And there are so many movies where voiceover is unnecessary, but used anyway. In this movie, it is needed. This is a movie that is a character study, and it's in the first person. It is a first person character study, and he is a loner. How else are you going to know what this guy is going through without narration? You really do need it here. And I do like the way that it's done with these journal entries, because to me, that is an effective way of getting into his head that isn't cheap, that doesn't feel like, Hey, it's me, Travis Bickle. I'm talking to you, the guy watching the movie. Like, to me, that just makes my eyes roll so goddamn hard. But, like he is keeping track of his thoughts. His thoughts are unhinged, and having this journal helps him, I guess, maybe. I don't know how he could be more unhinged, but it definitely helps the audience follow his journey.
I think you say exactly right. I mean, it's a journey into this man's descent into madness.
Yes.
Had you ever seen this film before?
Yes. Once before, I didn't remember every detail. I totally forgot that Albert Brooks was in it. I forgot details of the ending. Had you seen it before?
No, I'd never seen it before. The only thing I knew about Taxi Driver were two things. You're talking to me, and Jodie Foster is a child actress in this film. I knew nothing about the film, and I went in completely blind. So at first, the guy is somewhat normal. I mean, he's applying for a job as a taxi driver, and the guy's like, "Oh, you're a veteran? I'm a veteran. All right." Everything he's saying is totally reasonable. And it's, of course, the 70s in New York City. So it's one of those crime cities. It's like what we've seen in The Warriors. The trope was that the city was dangerous, and it really was.
Yeah, this is when New York City was considered a hellhole. This was around the time, I think the headline was Ford to New York City, drop dead or something like that. Yeah, New York City was kind of just written off. When they filmed this movie in 1975, there was a sanitation strike. So the city literally reeked. It smelled horrible. And it's a cliche, trite thing to say that in this movie, New York City is a character. Like, I kind of want to punch myself in the face for saying it, but it is kind of true here. Like this depiction of New York City, it is brutal. It is gritty. It is violent. And there are moments in the movie where the violence is the focus, of course, but there's also a lot of violence that just happens in the background when Travis is driving his taxi, when he's walking down the street and there's just cops beating up somebody in the background. The camera doesn't linger on it, but it's there. This is a violent, depressing place. And look, you and I were not alive in 1976, so we don't know for sure. But I have to believe that even in this version of New York City, there were still nice restaurants, museums, lovely cafes, and Broadway shows, and places that you could go to that were nice. And none of that's in this movie. I think that's very deliberate. I think Travis kind of only wants to see the shit. And so that's what he's focused on. It's kind of how he gets the job. He says, I'll drive to any bad neighborhood. I don't care. But if he had wanted to see something a little nicer, he could drive through Central Park. And even if it's not as lovely as it is today, it would still be nicer than just going through the district with all the porn theaters and prostitutes.
Yeah, he doesn't care. I mean, he literally talks about cleaning up all the sex fluids in the back of his cab. Like, he doesn't care. He's not like, oh, these gross pieces of shit. No, he's like, that's what I got to do at the end of the day. And then I punch in, punch out.
He doesn't care that much in the beginning, but as the movie goes on, he starts talking about getting rid of the scum.
Well, yes.
He talks about a rain that's going to come and wash the streets clean, and then he takes it on himself that he's going to do that. So it is that descent into madness where he is choosing to focus on the negative. He is presumably suffering from PTSD. We don't hear details of his military background. And apparently there are some people who think that he's lying about being a veteran, that he kind of just makes that up when the guy in the beginning asks him if he was in the service and he just says, yeah, sure. And maybe that's not true. People point to the way he kind of gets into that fight with Albert Brooks and the way he holds a gun. If he was a real soldier, he would know how to do those things better. But apparently Martin Scorsese and the screenwriter Paul Schrader say that no, he was in fact really a veteran.
Yeah, I think he's a veteran. I didn't doubt that at all. I mean, he said he was a Marine till 73. And 73 must have been some of the worst shit. Vietnam caused so much PTSD.
He talks about his headaches that he can't shake. He says that the smell of New York City and the criminals give him the headaches. Like, no, that's probably the PTSD. I don't think that's because you see bad guys on your walks. And he doesn't sleep. He takes the late shift because he doesn't sleep. That's another fan theory, quote unquote, that there might be parts of this movie, particularly the ending, that are hallucinations, that aren't real. And again, Scorsese and Schrader say that that's not true, that what you see in the movie does happen to this character. It's not hallucination. But it's easy to see why someone might think that for this guy who is at least mentally ill.
I think the movie is pretty much straightforward. Everything that you see happens. I don't think anything is a hallucination.
I think that was the intention.
But I do have to ask you a question. I'm not quite sure. What is the point of the characters of Betsy and Senator Palantine?
Great question. So Betsy is a vision of beauty in this city of scum. She is an angel dressed in white. And Travis fixates on her in a way that is just downright fucking creepy. He's basically stalking her, staring at her while she works. And it's Sybil Shepherd. She's beautiful, but his fixation on her is just really, really unhealthy and really creepy. And it's meant to show that this guy is desperate to find something that isn't garbage, that isn't scum, that isn't crime, that isn't filth. And he sees this beautiful woman and he's like, that's what I need. He says he wants to be her friend. It's not necessarily that he is hypersexualized. I mean, he goes to these porn theaters. We don't see him jerking off. It seems like he goes there kind of just to go there. Presumably he wants to have sex with Betsy, but I think she just represents this one good thing, which obviously is unfair to Betsy, that this mentally unwell person has put all of his hopes and dreams for the entire world on her. You know, she agrees to go and have coffee with him. Okay, sure, why not? Maybe because he's a bad boy, because he walks into the office with confidence. By the way, he orders an apple pie with a slice of melted cheese, which sounds so goddamn disgusting. Apparently that's a thing.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why anyone would do that to a slice of apple pie. But she even agrees to go out on a date with him, and then he takes her to a porn theater. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you thinking? And he probably just doesn't know any better. He kind of says, oh, I don't know anything about movies. I didn't know that would upset you. And it's like, that's pretty fucking weird that you would think that she would be into it. Again, kind of to my earlier point. Yeah, he knows the theaters in Manhattan that show porn movies. There are movies in New York City that show non-porn movies. Why doesn't he take her there to the Upper East Side or something? And I think it's just because he has that really limited worldview. But to answer the other part of your question about Senator Palantine, this movie is based on a lot of different things. Schrader, the screenwriter, was kind of drawing off his own experience. He went through a really dark, depressing time personally, and he drew some of that. It's also based on Arthur Bremer, who shot George Wallace in 1972, the presidential candidate. He also kept diaries. And so Schrader kind of used that as he was writing about Travis Bickle, who attempts to assassinate a presidential candidate and keeps diaries.
Now, is Palantine an equivalent of George Wallace? Because George Wallace, he was not a good man. His famous phrase was segregation today, segregation yesterday, and segregation tomorrow. I'm just wondering, is Palantine like a wacko? I really wasn't sure.
It's a fair question, and I don't know. If this movie is supposed to take place in 1976, presumably he would be the Democratic nominee because he would be going up against Ford. But he also talks about the convention coming up in Miami, and neither the Republican nor Democratic convention was in Miami in 1976. Also, while there's these parallels to George Wallace's assassination attempt, there was also an attempted assassination of President Ford by this woman, Sarah Jane Moore, and she achieved celebrity. Like, she was on the cover of Newsweek, and so Schrader also took inspiration from that story about how Travis Bickle becomes a hero at the end of this movie. So I don't know that Palantine is necessarily supposed to represent any particular political figure, but the inspiration does come from those two attempted assassinations. And there's a third attempted assassination that is connected to this movie. Do you know what that is?
Was it the assassination of Mufasa by Scar?
No, that is a terrible guess. When John Hinckley Jr. shot Reagan, he was doing it to impress Jodie Foster because he was obsessed with Jodie Foster in the movie Taxi Driver. And that affected Martin Scorsese. Apparently, there was a quote where he said he considered quitting Hollywood and directing and making movies because, Jesus Christ, what the fuck's the point of making movies? Some psycho sees your movie and has some crazy idea and he blames you. And that is connected to Taxi Driver, for better or worse, right or wrong, fair or unfair. It is. It's crazy. It's fucked up how there are all of these different real world parallels. It's art imitating life. And then with John Hinckley Jr., it's life imitating art. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've always heard there was some connection to Jodie Foster and the attempted assassination of Reagan. What a weirdo.
It's literally insane to try to kill Reagan to impress Jodie Foster. It makes about as much sense as Travis trying to assassinate Palantine. Is that to impress Betsy? Is it because he doesn't like Palantine? Like, what's his motivation there? It's unclear. But Travis is going to kill Palantine. That's why he makes that gun quick draw thing in his sleeve, and that's why he goes to all these rallies and he scopes out the Secret Service and he talks to them, and he gives one guy a fake address, and his zip code for New Jersey is a 6-digit number that starts with the number 6. Anyone from the Northeast knows that New Jersey zip codes all start with the number 0, not 6, whatever. You know, he's going there to kill Palantine. And if that one Secret Service agent didn't see him, he might have. He might have killed Palantine. Instead, he runs off, is able to escape, and then he decides to kill Iris's pimp and, you know, is then hailed as a hero later on. If he assassinates Palantine, he's not a hero. He's a monster. It's a simple twist of fate. It's a coin flip between this guy being an assassin or a hero.
He kind of stumbled ass backwards into being a hero by just going psycho on the correct people.
Right.
Instead of murdering and shooting up an entire senator's rally, he shot up a pimp and all of his associates. So good for him, as it would be.
Right. And you don't mourn the death of the pimp played by Harvey Keitel because he is literally sex trafficking a minor. He says that Iris is 12 and a half years old. In real life, Jodie Foster was 12 years old when they made this movie. You know, they had to make sure that she was psychologically mature enough to film this kind of role. And her sister was a body double in some of the scenes so that they didn't have to have a 12-year-old on set for that big shootout. But Travis Bickle was gonna kill someone. He was itching for it. He gets the guns, I don't know, maybe halfway through the movie, give or take. And he's just looking for an excuse to kill someone.
I agree with you on Travis, but in 1976, just some guy in the street just saying, hey man, you want a 12-year-old? Like, I was just blown away by how brazen this was. You know, I don't know how realistic that was then or now, but it just seemed to me like you're not supposed to be blown away by that. I think you're supposed to be like, you know, it's sad that she's in this situation, but I don't think it's as extreme as, say, a movie today would make this all about how she's a 12-year-old.
I hear what you're saying, right? Like, Epstein running that ring was like a major criminal organization that was underground. Everyone seemed to know about it, but whatever. And this is just happening out in the open. I think it's there to further this idea that New York City is a hellhole.
I guess so, yeah.
It's scum of the earth. And when Sport, the pimp, is describing Iris as this young kid and all of the things he says, Travis is horrified, rightly so. I mean, you understand why he's horrified, why he is so desperate to rescue her, to save her, to get her out of this situation. I think it's just meant to show that this city is that bad, that people are that depraved, and that it can happen kind of out in the open, and it's not apparently that big of a deal. How fucked up is that?
That's fucked up.
It is. But as we're talking about the ending, I didn't really remember the ending, and I thought that the movie was going to end with Travis dying on that couch. After he kills the pimp and the client and the bouncer, he is hit himself, I think twice. I think he's shot twice in the side and the neck.
Falls into a coma.
Yeah, and like he's gonna just die on that couch. He tries to kill himself. He's out of bullets. When the cop comes in, he does like the finger gun to his head, pulls the trigger, quote unquote, his thumb down. I thought that was going to be the end. I really wish it was the end. I hate that the movie keeps going from there, where he survives and he is considered a hero, and Iris's parents write him a very nice letter about how he saved their daughter, and there's the newspaper clippings about how he's a hero, and then Betsy gets in his cab and wants to talk to him one last time. I just fucking hated all of that. Did that bother you?
No, it didn't. I found it funny how he became a hero, and he really kind of just went crazy, and the media was very happy about it. So I like the epilogue in that regard.
The media can paint him as a hero because they don't know that he tried to assassinate Palantine.
Exactly.
In theory, the Secret Service agent could have seen his picture and said, "Hey, wait a second. You're not supposed to think about that." After Betsy leaves the cab, there's this moment that is maybe weird, where there's just like this loud sting of music, and he sees something in the rearview mirror and you're not quite sure what it is, and then he keeps driving and the movie ends. That is meant to show that this guy ain't all right. He's not fixed. He's not a good guy. He's not a hero, even if the paper thinks he is, even if Betsy thinks so, and Iris's parents. He is unwell, and he's going to be looking in the rearview mirror and paranoid, and he's going to want to shoot those guns again. Who's he going to kill next time? Is it going to be a horrible pimp who's trafficking a minor? Or is it going to be just some other random person who happens to cross his path and he's going to kill? That is what seems more likely. And that's why I hate the ending, because he is considered a hero and he's not. He is a vigilante. He is an unwell person who needs help. And he does not need to be praised and to be allowed to continue driving around Manhattan with all of his guns. He's going to kill again, and it's not going to be the same thing. It's not going to go well the next time. I think you told me this once. You haven't seen Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix movie, right?
No, but I get now why people say Taxi Driver is Joker in comic book form, because I could see this would create a villain at the end.
Yeah, when Joker came out, it was pointed out that it has a lot of similarities to Taxi Driver, and it really does. I mean, it is a homage or a loving inspiration or a blatant ripoff, depending on how you want to frame it. But the thing that I really, really hated about Joker is that the movie ends with Joker as a hero and everyone's happy for him. Sorry, I guess that's a spoiler, but it's shitty. It's a shitty way to prop up a person like this who is a monster, who is not a hero. And watching the movie this time, I was like, God damn it. Why did they do that? Why didn't they just let him die on that couch? I think if you let him die on the couch, it's a very, very, very different movie. And I can't speak for Paul Schrader or Martin Scorsese, but the two of them have said that they see a lot of themselves in this character of Travis Bickle, and they had sympathy and empathy for him. And I think it's okay to have empathy for your protagonist, even if he's not a great person. But there's a line between empathy and elevating him to a hero that I think is just too far. And I really, really, really hate that decision at the end of this movie.
I think a lot of people can be not great people that are elevated to heroes. There's probably a lot of people that have statues or buildings named after them that probably don't deserve it.
That is definitely true. I think it's a shitty take that if certain things go a certain way, yeah, you'll be a hero and yay for you. When no, not really. James, what do you think about Taxi Driver? Do you think this movie stands the test of time?
I do. I found it to be an interesting film to watch for the first time. De Niro was fantastic in it. His haircut halfway through the film, we did not talk about that. That is a fantastic depiction of once he's kind of going totally nuts.
And that's fake. That's a bald cap with hair like glued into it.
Really? Huh. I assumed he really shaved it. Jodie Foster is very, very good. And all those supporting characters, Peter Boyle as this cabbie, it's just very real, the way these cabbies are talking to each other. I agree with you that it's cliche, but I like that character of 1970s New York. It's kind of funny to look at because it's so different today. For me, the film does stand the test of time. I enjoyed watching it. How about you, Al?
Look, this movie is beloved for good reason. It is an amazing script. It is directed wonderfully. Robert De Niro kills it. I mean, he does an amazing job with this movie. He's brilliant. You know, this puts in motion Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese's careers. They were doing okay before this movie came out. De Niro had won the Oscar for Godfather Part 2, and Scorsese had made Mean Streets and had gotten acclaim from that. But this movie really did launch them to the next level. They've had wonderful careers that are still going strong. It's a movie that's on all of the lists, you know, the AFI list. And anytime there's a best of movie list, you're going to see Taxi Driver on there. It's an amazing film. It really is a testament to a very specific time in American history. We also didn't talk about the score by Bernard Herrmann. This was the last movie that he ever scored. He literally died hours after he finished it, after he made that last music sting that you hear when Travis looks in his rearview mirror. He did that, and I think he went to bed and then died like that night or something. The movie we're talking about next week was the first movie that Bernard Herrmann ever did the score for. This was Albert Brooks's first movie. Jodie Foster went on to have a wonderful career, in part because of her amazing performance in this movie. So there's so much to love about this movie. I just really can't get past the ending. And maybe it sounds petty. Maybe it sounds like a small detail. It's not to me. There is a reason to not do that. And the reason is, we live in a country flooded with guns and filled with people who think that they can just kind of decide who lives and who dies because they have a gun and because they have their own moral compass, quote unquote. They can pick who they're going to shoot and who they're going to kill. Sorry to turn this podcast into a therapy session, but the Renee Good murder has really, really gotten to me. I find that so goddamn depressing and sad. And yeah, that fucking guy, he had a gun. He gets to decide, I don't like this woman. 3 shots to the face. And he'll probably face no repercussions for it. And there are some people in this country who will hail him as a hero. And fuck that. That's fucking wrong. When I saw Joker, I thought that movie was irresponsible. And I think, honestly, from a test of time perspective, I could kind of see how Joker was worse just because in the 40 plus years since Taxi Driver, how many more mass shootings are there? How many more of these guys with guns who think that they're doing the right thing by killing innocent people. It's just become far more of a problem. Like the backlash to Joker, I think, is more justified. You know, I can imagine a studio executive in 1975 having no qualms about Scorsese's movie here because he probably would just have less reason to. Not that there wasn't gun violence, but kind of along those lines, Travis Bickle, not only is he a creep and a misogynist, he's also a racist. And in the first version of the script, the pimp and all of the guys that he kills at the end, they were all black. And there were heightened racial tensions at the time. And someone, I forget who it was, a studio executive, said, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe that's not the right thing to do in our movie, to have this white guy kill all of these black people. And Scorsese or Schrader or whoever said, yeah, okay, fine, that makes sense. And then Harvey Keitel was cast and they changed the race of those people. So you think about these things, right? Like, it's a movie and it's fiction, but it exists in the real world. And it's okay for the real world stuff to be a factor. So just watching it in 2026, I do feel like, I don't know that this script gets made today. I would think a studio executive would, or at least should, have serious reservations about making this movie exactly as it is. Maybe not if he dies. If Travis dies on that couch, maybe it's okay. Sorry if I sound like I'm on my high fucking horse, but because of the ending, I'm going to say that the movie, as wonderful as it is, does not stand the test of time.
All right, high horsey. That's okay. I understand what you're thinking. You don't really agree with where the movie leads at the end.
Yeah. By the way, neither here nor there. Did you catch when Martin Scorsese was in the movie?
You know, there was actually a part where I looked and I said, who played this guy? Who was Martin Scorsese?
Martin Scorsese is the guy who is talking to Travis about his cheating wife when he's pointing to the window, and
that's
that
what
silhouette.
I thought. That's absolutely what I thought. And I actually, I ChatGPT'd it. I said, who is the guy in Taxi Driver that says he's going to kill his wife with a 44 Magnum?
Did ChatGPT get it wrong?
It got it wrong. It said it was Danny Boyle.
Wait, Peter Boyle?
Peter Boyle, yeah.
Interesting. The story is that it was supposed to be this other actor, and then he was in a car accident or something, and they had to film that scene because they made this movie on a tight budget, on a tight production schedule. So Scorsese just did it himself. And I think he had to sit on something in the back of the cab because he's so short. But that's really funny that ChatGPT didn't know who Martin Scorsese was. Also, by the way, we didn't say anything about the fact that taxi drivers, yeah, they still exist, but now in the age of Uber and Lyft, I think just naming a movie Taxi Driver would just be less impactful. Like, who cares?
I mean, there was a movie called Stuber. Remember that movie with Dave Bautista?
No.
Yeah, it was about an Uber driver.
Oh, okay. There was some story about when the movie premiered and the word taxi driver came on screen, people in New York City cheered. Because, hey, New York City, taxi driver, yay, that's us. I feel like now nobody would cheer. Whatever. James, that brings us to the end of episode 499. And you know what comes next? Our 500th episode. Are you excited? I'm excited.
I'm excited for Star Trek 5. Right, Al? Is that what we're reviewing?
Definitely not. I thought long and hard about it, but for this milestone episode, I feel like we gotta watch a classic. Let's watch Citizen Kane for our 500th episode.
Citizen Kane. Wow.
I am so excited for our 500th episode next week. If you haven't sent us a message, it might be too late. I don't know, depending on when we record. But go for it. Send us a message anyway for our 500th episode. Let us know what you think about Taxi Driver. You can come at me in the comments for my take on the movie. That's fine. Write to us at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. We love hearing from you, and we will see you next time for our 500th episode.
Bye.